Do you want to create more accessible learning experiences for your students using Seesaw? Hi, this is Billy Joe from Elkhart Instructional Tech, and in this video we will explore how to create accessible instructions, how to add scaffolds to Seesaw activities, how to allow for choice and output with multimodal tools, and how to increase student engagement on Seesaw activities. If you want to check out any of these topics, go ahead and check out the description in this video for details on timestamps so you can skip ahead. We would love it if you would consider subscribing to our YouTube channel if you haven't already done so.
If I ask you to read the prompt and follow the directions on the screen, you might be shaking your head in silence and confusion. You don't know what I'm asking. But if I play the audio button,
in the chat, please write your name and the grade level that you teach.
adding audio made this prompt more accessible to you. These directions were actually in Swahili. Imagine being a student in your class and not being able to understand the directions. I want you to imagine what comes to your mind when you think about accessibility. Now, you might have some ideas in mind about what accessibility is. Think of some of the strategies that you use to make learning accessible to your students. You may have thought, allow for verbal responses instead of written, or audio and video to support comprehension, maybe extra time and extra breaks. We believe accessibility means creating learning experiences in which learners can engage with grade-level content and demonstrate mastery in ways that work best for them. Research shows that teachers can increase access to rigorous curriculums by making sure all learning experiences include accessible instructions, responsive scaffolds, choice with output, multiple modalities including audio, visual, or kinesthetic learning. The first way to make learning accessible for students is to make sure the instructions are easy to understand. When instructions are provided in multiple ways, text, verbal, and visual, barriers are eliminated and students can better understand what they need to do. Remember, when you are creating your activity, to take time to add Seesaw icons and emojis to the typed instructions for students. These visual icons give students additional clues as to what they will be doing. In the video description, you will see links to Seesaw icon shortcuts. Let's take a look. These are the Seesaw icon shortcuts. If you've never used these in adding your instructions for your learners, they are very simple to use. If you would like to incorporate the icon of a camera, for example, all you do is add colon, the word photo, and colon. These are the codes that will create your unique learning instructions. Here's an example of a Seesaw instructional activity that is using the Seesaw icons. There is also a website, emojicopy.com, where you can copy many different emojis. You can search for an emoji, or you can tap on different emojis. So for example, I'm going to search microphone. You will see all of the matches that come up. I can tap on all of the emojis that I would like to copy, and you will notice that they are being added into my copy bar. And then all I have to do is tap copy, and then they are now copied and I can paste them into my Seesaw activities. You should also consider adding voice instructions in multiple languages if needed. If you do not speak multiple languages, I have a nice hack for that. Simply open up Google, go to Translate, enter your text in English. Once you have chosen your desired language and the content has been translated, you can use this translated text here, or you may listen to the audio and record within Seesaw while it's playing here. and your learner will have translated instructions in their native language. To further make student instructions accessible, it is important to embed student instructions on each page. Breaking up the instructions into parts based on the page of the activity allows students to focus on one part of the directions at a time. Add video instructions by clicking on the camera video icon. Students can then see and hear their own teacher explaining the directions. Here are a few best practice tips for video and voice instructions. Speak slower than feels natural. Add other background information about the activity for students and families who may be supporting their child in completing the activity. You can use the label tool to type step-by-step directions on each page. Add emojis or icons to your instructions. Don't forget about emojicopy.com to get those emojis. Add voice instructions by clicking on the 3 dots under the text or label, selecting voice, and choose Record My Voice to read the text to students. Students will play the audio by clicking the speaker icon. This is a great opportunity to add directions in other languages too. Remember the Google Translate option. Capture the audio if you don't speak the language. Students can't access content if they don't know what to do. Accessible directions reduce barriers to learning. Going step by step allows students to take in important instructions one part at a time, thus reducing the cognitive load. You'll be able to see student progress toward the skill versus their ability to understand directions. Not assessing mastery of language, assessing mastery of the skill. Scaffolds are supports teachers put in place to help students reach higher levels of comprehension and grasp new concepts. In scaffolding, the teacher has added a variety of instructional techniques that'll help the students gain a stronger understanding of the material. Put simply, scaffolds reduces barriers to learning. Let's look at some of the most common scaffolds we can use in Seesaw. The first scaffold we'll talk about is using sentence stems. Sentence stems allow the students to focus on the content rather than on the structure needed to formulate a written or verbal response. Sentence stems eliminate a communication barrier. Sentence stems can be used in supporting writing, reading responses, and for cause and effect, predictions, analysis, and explanation. Sentence stems should be used to support and get students started, but the goal is to eventually take that scaffold away and have students produce thoughtful writing on their own. To provide an additional layer of scaffolding, add audio, reading the text to students. This adds an extra support for your non-emergent readers and English language learners. As a reminder, audio can be added to a text label. If your students are younger, consider chunking the text and audio into parts to make it easier for students to follow and comprehend. The next scaffold that will support learning in Seesaw is using the label tool to add a word bank. Word banks provide support and guidance in learning new vocabulary. Word banks help students know which words can be used to complete an activity. Students can drag and drop the labels onto the line to complete the activity. Word banks support vocabulary barriers. You can use word banks to supply a list of words that are crucial to completing an activity. Add a voice label to each vocabulary word to read vocabulary to students. This feature can be used to add voice labels to images as well, so students are not identifying an image incorrectly. This allows students to complete the activity without any misunderstandings. Adding visuals to activities allows students to more easily comprehend the text. Visuals are powerful because they are richly imprinted on our brains, which makes it easier to recall the information. Using visual cues in all activities to help students comprehend the text and to better understand the activity. It is easy to add emojis or images in Seesaw. Don't forget about emojicopy.com to get those emojis quickly and easily. Another powerful scaffold that can easily be added to a Seesaw activity is an instructional video or mini lesson directly on the page. By using the video tool, the teacher can provide guidance, instruction, and any other learning that will help the students be successful in completing the activity. Another reason to do this is to read the directions aloud to your students. This allows students who may need more help with the reading to get the support they need to complete this activity. So you can see here, there's a video that the student can press play and listen to the teacher read the information, explain the activity, and provide any background knowledge necessary. By clicking on the microphone, teachers can create a demonstration video showing students how to interact with the given activity. The draw and record video provides an example for the students so they can successfully accomplish the task. Think of it as like a screen recording right within Seesaw. The video shows up as a full-page video, but you can then shrink it and put it anywhere on the canvas you'd like. Such as in this example, the video has been shrunk down to be in this orange box. One thing I really like to do is use the microphone because a new tool pops up with an arrow. Let's hop over in Seesaw and take a look. So here I am in Seesaw. I'm going to go ahead and edit this activity to incorporate a microphone recording to create a demonstration video. So here we are within a Seesaw activity. I am going to go ahead and tap on the microphone and start the screen recording or just wait for the countdown. And what you'll notice is a new tool appears in the toolbar. This arrow, I love using this arrow feature when I am creating a video and I am pointing to different parts and I'm telling students, look here, their attention is drawn right where I put the arrow. You do not need to go in and put in a shape and delete and move around because this arrow tool just appears when you tap or click and drag around on your screen. Of course, you can always pause and then resume your recording, but when you are finished, you will tap done in the very top right corner, and that is when you will see your recording appear as an entire full page. You can then shrink it down to the size you'd like and put it wherever you'd like on your screen. Students can easily play it and it can become full screen for them while they're playing and watching it on their device. The last scaffold we will talk about adding to activities is graphic organizers. Using a graphic organizer helps students visually represent their learning and ideas. It gives them support and helps them learn to organize their thinking. Scaffolding allows you to reduce barriers to learning for your students. Once you add any of the above scaffolds that we've talked about, remember, you could then differentiate the learning by assigning this activity to only select students. We know there are many other scaffolds that you can implement into your activities. Here are a few additional scaffolds that you can implement in your classroom. Exemplars or models. Put in a photo of an anchor chart you use in your classroom. Vocabulary lessons to activate prior knowledge and support comprehension. Integrate a student's home language. Creating accessible learning requires thoughtful planning. One final piece of the planning is deciding how the students will show what they've learned. Many typical assessments ask students to show their learning in only one way, and that is usually in a written response or a multiple choice test with one answer. Standardized assessments serve their purpose, but to support our students on a day-to-day basis, teachers need to be creative in how they gather useful information on their students. Think through this scenario with me. If I want to assess whether my students know how to create a pattern, I usually need to call each student up to individually create the pattern in front of me. This takes a lot of individual teacher time that we just don't have. What if, instead, we use Seesaw and also gave students a choice to use the multimodal tools in Seesaw to show how they know what a pattern is? Students thrive when they're given a choice in how they can share their learning. In this example, choice number 1 allows students to find objects in the room to make their pattern. Choice number 2 has them use the Shapes tool, and choice number 3 lets students use the Drawing tool. In all 3 choices, the students then have to use the microphone to record why they created their pattern the way they did, which gives me insight into their learning and helps me continue to support them in their learning. Having students use the microphone to explain their thinking allows the teacher to see if the student truly understands the concept being taught or if they just recreated something that another student created. They can explain their process. With Seesaw, students have access to multimodal tools, which means that students can choose to capture their learning with audio, video, or hands-on learning. They can share their learning in a way that written language or spoken language isn't a barrier to showing what they can do. The first output tool is incredibly simple but powerful. We know that our youngest students should still be doing most of their learning in the classroom with manipulatives, paper and pencil, and with hands-on creating. The photo tool allows us to capture the hands-on learning, the drawing, the writing, manipulatives, diagrams, and creations, and share this learning beyond the classroom. Another output tool in Seesaw that gives the teachers more understanding into what each child learned is the microphone. The microphone allows students to share their thinking and process. Remember, when students use the microphone feature, they get that extra tool in the toolbar with the arrow. Let's take a look at this student example of how the student is explaining their thinking.
These are the flat petals. There's the petals. These are the seeds. They make the plant grow. This is the stem. The stem makes it hold itself. These are the roots. The roots make it stay. These are the leaves. The leaves make vitamins.
When you have your students record with a microphone, you might designate spots in the room for recording. You can also use a recording spot poster to help students remember what they need to do. You can get a link to this poster in the description. Just tap on the link for the handout. The video tool allows students to complete alternative work projects and capture their learning. Students are able to complete physical, hands-on learning activities and use the video tool to record and explain their thinking, giving teachers a window into that child's learning process. Let's take a look at this student video.
Bees can make pollen by sucking it out of the flower and bring it to another person, and then that makes a seed that makes a flower. Or wind can blow from one flower to the other flower, and then the seeds will drop and make another flower. That's pollination.
Last but not least, we have the drawing tool. On the drawing canvas, students can add multiple artifacts and create a collage or diagram. This drawing canvas can be left blank for students to create on, or you can give them a template to draw on top of. Another option is to provide a choice board and let students decide the best way to share what they learned. Progress made visible. Seesaw makes thinking visible. When students use multimedia tools to show their learning, teachers get a holistic view of their progress. You get to see what your students know and where they need more support. Armed with this insight, you can support every student to be their best. Adding multimodal choice to assessments reduces barriers to learning, gives opportunities for students to experience success, and allows students to engage with content using multiple modalities to deepen their learning. In addition to including these scaffolds that we mentioned when building in your own activity, there are a number of accessibility features embedded directly into Seesaw that can be added to make your activity accessible for all learners. The first accessibility update ensures there is sufficient color contrast. If you've been using Seesaw for a while, you will notice that the green Add button is now darker, and the Journal, Activities, Inbox, and Progress tabs have a greater contrast with the white and dark blue. This allows the site to be more easily read by everyone. Seesaw also now supports keyboard navigation. Keyboard navigation allows users to use the keyboard to toggle in between items in Seesaw. This new feature supports students with motor disabilities who may rely on using a keyboard rather than a mouse, just by using Tab and Enter. The next accessibility feature is the ability to add alternative text to shapes, images, or labels. Adding alternative text to images is a key principle of web accessibility and supports users who have a low vision or are blind. Assistive technologies like screen readers read the alternative text so users are able to perceive and understand the content on the page. You can click the three dots, then choose Accessibility. In the box, you can now type the text you would like to have the screen reader read. Another accessibility feature is the ability to add closed captioning files to a video in Seesaw. If you have a video in your Seesaw activity, you can click the three dots, then choose Accessibility. Then you can add a closed captioning file. The closed captioning file must be a VTT file. You can also add alternative text for the video. Accessible and engaging activities will keep students interested. I like to call it blah to ta-da. Let's take a look. This is a screenshot of a math problem taken from a workbook page. How can this activity include more accessibility and be more engaging? Maybe some color contrast, audio, word bank, a video, maybe add in an anchor chart. This activity provides a word list and asks for sentences. It's great that it has a word list, it has some audio in there, but how can this activity include even more accessibility and be more engaging? Maybe try adding a choice with how students create sentences. Even better, have the students find the words with a search and find activity. Maybe instead of putting words in ABC order with a list, try using a search and find activity where students find the word, then drag them into ABC order. Let's apply the same idea with definitions. You can see instructions on how to create your own Spotlight and search and find on the linked handout in the description. I'll also show you how in this video. Who doesn't love scratching away lottery tickets? Another way to engage learners is with a scratch away activity in Seesaw. You create your hidden content where students use the eraser to scratch away to reveal. Check out this math activity. You can see instructions on how to create your own scratch away activity on the linked handout in the description. I'll also show you how to do it here in this video. Remember the way scratch art made you feel? You can bring that into your Seesaw activities. You can see instructions on how to create your own scratch art activities in the linked handout in the description, or keep watching.
Visit this link if you need a refresher on how to create a Seesaw activity. You can also find the link in the video description.
Let's take a look at Spotlight Search and Find. When you have an activity using Spotlight Search and Find, the students will drag the spotlight around the page to find anything hidden and then complete the instructions that you've asked. For example, it may ask them to drag the word into the word box. So let's take a look. How do we create? The first step is to insert an image that has varying colors. Any image will work as long as you have different colors. It's not one solid color. You then want to insert a shape like the circle, and under the style setting, choose transparent. You may also want to lock that size. Just so you know, the shape should be behind the text. So step 3, type the word and hide it, or whatever the context is that you are trying to hide. And you also want to choose the color that matches the area where you place it. Let's take a closer look. Here I have my image. This image is in the background. You want to make sure that you're locking your image by tapping on the 3 dots, choosing lock. That way that image won't move around. The second step is to go into the shape menu and choose a shape. You can choose any shape you want. I'm going to just choose the circle. And then you can decide what color you want your shape to be. And then in the Style menu, tap the three dots, go to Style. The very first option will make it transparent. The last step is to then, in the text box, whatever you want students to find. So if I wanted to do 2 times 2, you are then going to drag it around and say I wanted to hide it right here. I'm going to drag and move the color to try to find a color that makes it hidden. If you're really struggling, try a different area, and then you also want to make sure you're locking the sides. And that's how basically Spotlight Search and Find works. Let's take a look at Scratch Away. Let's look at how Scratch Away works. So when you have an activity, the students will scratch away to reveal. They use the eraser. You may want to let them know not to use the smallest setting, one of the 2 of the biggest makes it a little easier. And then they just simply scratch away to reveal whatever content is hidden. Let's look at another example. Here's another one where it's been scratched away. Student just uses the eraser to scratch away. The nice thing, you can still embed your audio features, your video features, all of your scaffolding tools can still be applied to these types of activities. So how do we create a scratch away? The first thing you want to do is add a shape and layer a text box on top within Seesaw. Or you can add an image with colors and words already created, such as something you created in Google Slides, and capture an image of that slide and put the image here on the activity. Remember to lock your items. Once you have your shapes or your image, use the pen or the glow pen to color over the word to hide it, using a color that's similar to the area in the background. Then teach students how to adjust the eraser size to scratch away. So let's jump in and try it out. Here is an activity that was created in a Google slide. The words were typed within that Google slide, the colors, everything, and this is now an image. So here the image has been inserted. I'm going to lock the image, and then using the pen marker, I am going to just color over to hide my content. And then I'm going to change the color and try to match as much as I can to color over. And now this activity will be ready for students to scratch and reveal. Here's another activity. Again, this was an image imported from Google Slides. And now I'd like to show you using the glow pen. I'm going to choose white, and I'm just going to fill in. If this were your activity, you would fill in every single shape. When you're done, students would simply use the eraser tool to erase away and reveal. I'll show you how you can build one right within Seesaw. Let's say you don't have a template like this in a Google Slide activity. No worry. You can do it right here in Seesaw. So it's very simple. You start first with a shape, then put your text on top of your shape. So in this case, I have 44 times 5, and then I added a shape to make my equation bar. I then like to just duplicate all of these items. I can duplicate the box, and I can change it to be a different color, and then I can do the same thing with my text. And then once it's duplicated, I can change the content and just keep creating. Remember that you do want to lock in your items in place, so once you have everything created, you will need to lock each item. You will need to lock the shape, you will need to lock the text. Once you have all of those items, you'll then just simply use the pen to color in, as I showed you on the previous pages.
Students love scratch art activities. Let's take a look at what students do in a scratch art activity. As a student, they receive a page that looks similar to this, and using the eraser tool teach students to adjust the size of eraser, and they simply erase over top of the text that they see. You can embed your scaffolding elements such as a video. As you see here on this page, students can play the video to reveal the correct way to write letter formation, for example. Another example could be for math. Students simply select the eraser tool and trace over a math equation and then solve it. You can notice here there are instructions on the page with audio directions added so that if students need to hear those directions, they can listen to those directions. So how do you make a scratch art activity? It's actually quite simple. The first step, you want to add a rainbow image to the background, or use the Seesaw rainbow background. Tip, you will want to lock the image. Then, use the pen on the widest setting to color black over the entire background. After that, use the pen's smallest setting in white to write your content. Last, just teach your students how to adjust the eraser size to scratch away each area. Let's take a look at how to create a scratch art activity. First, you want to add your rainbow background. Here I have uploaded a background that is rainbow, so I want to be sure to lock the image so that students cannot move it around. Or you can insert a Seesaw background that is a rainbow. If you insert a Seesaw background, you do not have to lock it. It's automatically locked. Next step, using the marker, tap to get to the largest setting and drag to black. Once I have quickly covered up the background with black, I will change my marker setting to a fine tip, change it to a light color such as white, and then create my content. When I'm creating my content, I'm going to handwrite it, and I want to be sure that I'm spacing my letters appropriately so that students have room to use the eraser at a bigger tip without being overcrowded. For example, if I were to write 2 times 2, I would not want to make my letters so close and so small. Instead, I will want to make my letters nice and large and spaced apart so that it will be easy for students to trace. Remember that you can add in any scaffolding, such as creating a video or audio. Here's a tip I like to do. I add in a shape box, such as the square. I just resize it so it's small. I tap the 3 dots and choose voice. I record my voice, and then I move the text box where I want. When I move the text box, I notice that there is an audio icon there, so students know to click, and then I can match the text box to the background. I can lock this text box so that it doesn't move around, and students will be able to click in here and know that there is something to listen to. Another way is to type your instructions. Once you have typed your instructions, tap the 3 dots, choose voice, and record your audio. Resize your text box, place it where you'd like, and students will see typed text as well as the audio. So there are 2 ways that you can include your audio. Another fun tip, if you are going to create multiple pages of a scratch art activity, after you've inserted your rainbow background and colored black in the Pages tab, simply duplicate that page so that you have multiple pages ready to go, and then you can resize your tip and create your content, or you can leave it blank and allow students to just simply use the eraser tool to then create a drawing of their very own as a fun extension of their learning. I hope you see the power in each of these tools I've showed you to support all learners in your classroom. As you think of these tools, which do you think you could incorporate more into your activities? I am happy to answer any of your questions. Just email me.
You can also visit our blog and social media by visiting our link tree.
Thanks for watching. You can check out our instructional blog at blog.elkhart.k12.in.us. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.